And thank you, Obed and Peter. My name is Nancy Danuccio. I'm the chair of the Ocean State Prevention Alliance. We're one of the prime hosts of this event tonight. We had a few cancellations at the last minute today. Peter Nerona was supposed to be here. Colonel O'Donnell was supposed to be here, and both of them were called out. I don't know if it was for the same event, but called out of town. So in his place, I'm going to introduce First Assistant United States Attorney Stepheng Dambruch, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him first. Stepheng Dambruch was appointed in 2014 as the Assistant United States Attorney in 2004 and Criminal Division Chief in February 2007. During his tenure as an Assistant United States Attorney, Mr. Dambruch worked on, among other things, a number of significant narcotics and public corruption matters. In 2006, the Department of Justice sent Mr. Dambruch on a 10-month detail to Baghdad, Iraq, during which he provided legal assistance and advice to the Iraqi High Tribunal in their investigation and prosecution of members of the former Ba'athist regime. Prior to his appointment as an Assistant United States Attorney, Mr. Dambruch served as a state prosecutor, including appointments as Chief of the Narcotics Prosecution Unit, Chief of the Newport County Office, Chief Prosecutor, and Deputy Criminal Chief. Mr. Dambruch is a 1982 graduate of Providence College and received his law degree from Boston College School in 1985. Mr. Dambruch, come right up.
Nancy, thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you all for having our office participate with you in this very important forum. United States Attorney Nerona could not be here this evening due to a family obligation, but he asked me to come because he believes that the discussion and the community getting together and dealing with this particular issue is very, very important and deserves our full attention and assistance to the extent that we can. Congress has determined that marijuana is a dangerous drug and that illegal distribution and sale of marijuana is a serious crime. The Department of Justice, which the U.S. Attorney's Office is a part of, is committed to the enforcement of the Controlled Substances Act consistent with those two determinations. We must, however, use our limited resources to address the most significant threats in the most effective, consistent, and rational way. Therefore, the Department of Justice has identified several enforcement priorities, two of which I feel are particularly relevant for tonight's meeting. The first, preventing the distribution of marijuana to minors. I think tonight we'll probably be talking about the dangers that marijuana presents to our young people in particular. And the second, preventing drugged driving and the exacerbation of other adverse public health consequences associated with marijuana. Drug driving is a very serious problem. I see Colonel Sullivan here tonight, who I had the pleasure of working with when he was the chief in Providence, when I was a state prosecutor, and now works on highway safety issues. Drug driving and other serious health consequences connected to the use and abuse of marijuana is a very significant problem and deserves all of our attention. So what is the Department of Justice doing to address those priorities? Well, the first thing is enforcement. Now, we don't do this alone because we have a very small complement of prosecutors, 15 prosecutors for the whole state. So we work together with our state colleagues at the Rhode Island Department of Attorney General, and most importantly, our law enforcement colleagues, the hardworking officers, whether it be from the Providence and Cranston police departments, other local police departments, or our partners with the Rhode Island State Police. And together we work to enforce both the federal and state controlled substances statutes, investigating and prosecuting those individuals, and particularly those individuals and organizations that make it their purpose to distribute marijuana to kids. Those are the people we are prioritizing in investigating, prosecuting, and holding them accountable, stopping them from taking advantage and harming our young people. We also employ prevention as a tool to help us achieve our goal. And attending and participating in forums like this one is part of that prevention effort, right? Getting people to talk about it, to be aware that there is a problem out there, and to coming together and developing some solutions to that particular problem. Now, U.S. Attorney Nerona and David Neal from our office, who is here somewhere tonight, have participated in several events sponsored by the Ocean State Prevention Alliance. I believe last week they were in Barrington and they've been elsewhere. And these events have been very successful and have achieved that goal of trying to bring the community together. Also, together with the Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association, the Rhode Island State Police, and the Rhode Island Department of Education, our office is providing drug awareness presentations and education to 7th and 8th grade students throughout the state. Dave Neal has been leading that particular effort, working with our partners. Again, trying to educate our young people about the dangers of marijuana. That when you hear it referred to as medical marijuana or legal marijuana, that doesn't mean that it's not a dangerous controlled substance that can have some rather serious consequences. On a separate but related topic, we have also reached out to the medical community to encourage the increased use of the state's prescription monitoring program in an attempt to reduce prescription drug abuse, oxycodone, Vicodin, Percocets. Because while we're here tonight to talk about marijuana, please understand that prescription drug abuse is also a very dangerous situation. It's a problem that impacts many, many young people, and as we've seen in the rise of overdose deaths or near deaths, it's a real problem here in the state of Rhode Island. So why is this all so important? Why do we spend time attempting to identify and prosecute people who distribute marijuana to kids? Why do we spend time with these prevention efforts? Well, I'd like to cite a few statistics. Rhode Island has the highest reported use of marijuana amongst people 12 years of age and older, even higher than states like Colorado, where marijuana has been legalized. What struck me recently is I was driving into work one day, I heard on the news that Electric Boat was having an awful hard time filling positions at their place of employment in Quonset Point because they couldn't find a sufficient number of people that could pass the drug test. What does that say about the current state of affairs? But most importantly, we're concerned, and in that statistic, 12 years of age or older. And one of the speakers that just spoke talked about the number of Providence middle or high school students that have used marijuana. That's a very scary statistic. Marijuana abuse is also the #1 reason why Rhode Island teenagers are admitted for residential substance abuse treatment. Marijuana use negatively impacts a young person's ability to concentrate and retain information. It's linked to poor academic performance and a higher dropout rate. We want our children to succeed. That's what all of us want for our kids, right? To do well, to succeed, to get that great job. It helps both them personally and academically grow. It helps our economy. Marijuana use directly undermines that and defeats that ultimate goal. People who drive while under the influence of marijuana are 2 times more likely to cause a crash resulting in injury or death. Now, on that point, drug driving, because I mentioned that that was sort of a priority, the prevention of drug driving, the Rocky Mountain High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Task Force, that's a long name. Every federal task force has to have a long name with an acronym. They call themselves HIDA. They are a federally financed task force, and they've looked and studied the situation in Colorado very carefully. Not only what's happening in Colorado, but how is it affecting other surrounding states. But as part of their study of the current situation in Colorado, where marijuana was legalized several years ago, they've looked at drugged driving statistics. And most recently, they've reported that the Denver Police Department arrested 33 people for driving under the influence of drugs involving marijuana in 2013 and 66 in 2014. Now, that in and of itself, maybe say only 66 people, Denver's a big city, but think of that. That's a 100% increase in the number of people they've arrested for drug driving involving marijuana just in that 1-year period of time. Furthermore, the Colorado State Patrol reported that 77% of their 2014 driving under the influence of drug arrests involved marijuana. That's 674 arrests out of 874. And 41% of those involved only marijuana. So marijuana was the problem. Now, with the Department of Justice, it's not our place, and we're not really allowed to take positions with regard to the merits on state legislation, whether it be legalization or medical marijuana or whatever, and for that matter, really any pending state legislation. So I'm not going to talk about that tonight, and if you asked, I could not answer questions in that regard. But what we can do, and what we will continue to do, is work together with our law enforcement partners on the enforcement component, going after those individuals who decide to make a living by selling marijuana and other drugs to young people. And secondly, to work together with our community partners, groups like this, schools, and other community organizations to promote prevention and awareness. So what we can promise to you, and I know what United States Attorney Nerona will promise to you, because he himself has been a very active participant in this effort, is that we will work together with you and contribute whatever we can, however small that may be, to help you achieve your goal of alerting people to the dangers of marijuana use by young people and assisting you in trying to resolve that problem for the state of Rhode Island. So thank you very much for having me here tonight, and I look forward to the conversation.